Thank you for signing up for Midex Time Control Express. In this video, I'm going to show you how to go through the initial setup, demonstrate how your employees can punch in and out, how you can modify these registrations, and generate reports for your payroll. If you have not yet created Midex Time Control Express account, go to our website, www.midextimeandattendance.com, and click on a blue button labeled Free Express Edition. Fill out the registration form, and you'll get an email with your login instructions. After you receive your confirmation email, the first step is to open your preferred web browser and go to Midex Time Control's website, www.midextimecontrol.com. If you've never used a Silverlight application before, you will be prompted to install it. I'm going to go ahead and proceed with this installation. Silverlight is a free browser plugin created by Microsoft. It's similar to a Flash player, which many people are more familiar with. Once Silverlight is installed, you should see a Midex Time Control login screen. Now I can enter my initial login, which is admin, initial password, and organization login that I signed up with. When you log into Midex Time Control for the first time, you have to go through several initial setup steps. The first window is User Management. I'm going to update my user information. This is the user who will be accessing Midex Time Control, not the employee who will be clocking in and out. The next window is Organization Settings. You'll see an organization name and login that you had created during the registration process. You can modify these if you wish. Also, you need to make sure that the time zone and region are correct. Choosing the correct time zone and region is very important. The reason we need these parameters is because Midex Time Control is an online application. Our server might not be in the same time zone and region as your organization. When employees are punching in and out using Web Time Clock, we need to adjust all registrations to your time zone. In addition, we have to know when your daylight saving time starts and ends, so that we can adjust the registration time correctly. Since there is no billing involved, I can skip filling out the address. Now, I can click on the Save Changes button to proceed. The next step is to update your company parameters. On the Details tab, you can update your company information as you wish. Again, we want to make sure that time zone and region is correct. In the next tab, Accounting Period, you can specify when your accounting period begins. For now, I'm going to leave the values as they are. This information can be updated at a later time. The next tab is Registrations. If we want to allow our employees to punch in and out through our Web Time Clock, then we need to enable this feature. Midex Web Time Clock is a virtual time clock that replaces typical time clock devices such as hand punch, fingerprint reader, or card reader. This is a free module that can be accessed through any web browser and is included with all our Midex Time Control editions. Employees can simply enter their employee number and password to punch in and out. After I complete the initial setup, I'll demonstrate how this module works. Before we save our company settings, we can adjust our minimum and maximum time interval between registrations. Minimum time interval between registrations defines how many minutes must pass between two registrations of the same employee. For example, if an employee punches in at 9 a.m. and then again at 9:01 a.m., we are only going to include the first registration, 9, and ignore the 9:01 registration. This feature was created to minimize human error, situations when employees might punch in twice by mistake. Maximum time interval between registrations helps us pair employees' punches. When an employee punches in at the beginning of their shift and punches out at the end, we want to pair these two registrations. For example, if an employee came to work at 9 a.m. and completed work at 5 p.m., these two registrations have to be paired for a total of 8 hours of work. However, if an employee forgot to punch out and came to work at 9 a.m. the next day, we don't want to pair the punch in from today with the punch in from the next day, because it will mean that the employee had worked for 24 hours. This is where maximum time interval between registration comes into play. If there are less than 16 hours between two registrations, we will pair them. Otherwise, they will stay as two incomplete registration pairs, which can be later adjusted manually. I'm going to leave these two values as they are and click Save Changes. Now we're going to set up our first department, and later on, I'll show you how to add additional departments if needed. I'm going to name my first department Accounting and save changes. The next step is to add our employees to the program. For each employee, we need to specify their first and last name and, optionally, middle name. If you're going to use a standalone time clock, such as hand punch, fingerprint reader, or card reader, then you need to ensure that the employee number is the same as the user ID in the clock. If you wish to use Midex Web Time Clock, which I mentioned during company setup, then we need to set up a password for this employee to punch in with. Under Registration Types tab, select Web Registration and enable the checkbox and give this employee a password. Click on the Save Changes button if you're done adding employees, or click on the Save and Add New button to add another employee. I'm going to add another employee and allow this employee to punch in through Web Time Clock. I'll click on Save Changes to complete our initial setup. Now that we have completed our initial setup, let's take a look at the user interface. In Midex Time Control Express, there are 4 panels. The first one is the Employee Tree panel. This is where you can see your company, all your departments, and all your employees grouped into departments. You can minimize the entire panel in order to give yourself some extra working space for the other 3 panels. You can right-click on any of the elements in the employee tree to display a menu. For example, if we right-click on Company, we can edit the company or add another department. If you right-click on the department, you can edit the department, delete it, or add an employee. And finally, if you right-click on the employee, you can edit or delete this employee. On the right, we have 3 panels. You can maximize any of the 3 panels by clicking on the Maximize button in the top right corner. The other 2 panels are automatically minimized to the bottom of the screen. Now let's take a look at each panel individually. The first one is the Companies and Departments panel. This is where you can see your company and all your departments. We can switch between the company and the department view by clicking on one of the tab buttons at the top. Since our free Express edition supports only one company, we can't add another company or delete this one, but we can edit the current company if we need to make any changes. You can either right-click on the company and select Edit Company from the menu, or you can click on the Edit Company button on the right. Now you can modify any of the settings for your company and click on Save Changes when you're done. Let's take a look at the department view. Since you can create any number of departments, there are 3 buttons on the right: Add, Edit, and Delete. Let's add a sales department to our company. And an IT department. Now that we have 3 departments, let's add a few more employees. First, I'm going to expand the employee panel. Employees are automatically added to the department that you have selected in the employee tree. To add an employee, you can either right-click on the department where you want to add the employee and select the Add Employee menu. Alternatively, you can click on the department where you want to add an employee and click the Add Employee button on the right. Just like I mentioned before, if you are using a time clock such as hand punch, fingerprint reader, or card reader, you need to ensure that the assigned employee numbers match their user identifications on the device. I've added a few more employees to our IT and sales departments for future demonstration purposes. So far, all we've been doing is going through the initial setup. We've set up our company settings, added a few departments, and added a few employees to each department. The next step is to see how these employees' punches are added to Midex Time Control and how you can administer them. Let's maximize our attendance panel and click on one of the employees. The first step is to make sure that we're looking at the correct accounting period that we have previously defined in the company settings. I can select to view the week, 2 weeks, half a month, or whole month, or a custom date range. The dates are automatically updated. Once we select an accounting period type, we can use right and left arrows to navigate to the next or previous accounting periods. As you can see, there are no registrations because we've just started. One way to add registrations is to do it manually. You can click on the Add Registration button, select the date and time, and since we're doing this manually, we can specify the reason why we're adding the registration. Notice that we do not have to specify whether the employee is punching in or out. The program will do this for us automatically. So let's add a second registration at 5 p.m. Now we can see how these 2 registrations have been paired up, giving us a total of 8 hours. If we're going to add a third registration at 12 p.m., we can see how the program automatically injected the 12 p.m. registration between the 2 previous registrations and recalculated the new pair from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., leaving the 5 p.m. registration unpaired. Let's add one more registration at 1 p.m. Again, this registration was injected between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. and the second pair is formed. Now, let's add another registration to a different employee at 9 a.m. and let's assume that this employee forgot to punch out that day and came to work the next day at 9 a.m. Notice that these two registrations have not been paired. This occurred because there have been more than 16 hours between these two registrations. We had defined this parameter earlier in the program when setting up our company. If this registration was at 11 p.m., then it would pair up as it is less than 16 hours between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. Notice that all these registrations are colored in red. This tells you that these registrations have been manually added or modified. Once we look at other methods of registration, this will make a little bit more sense. Of course, you don't want to add registrations for each employee manually. It defeats the purpose of an automatic time and attendance system. So let's take a look at alternative methods of registration. Earlier in this tutorial, when I was creating employees, I briefly mentioned our free virtual time clock module. If you recall, we have enabled the web registration option for some of our employees and assigned them a password. Employees can punch in and out by opening their web browser and navigating to webtimeclock.midextimecontrol.com. Now the employee has to enter your organization login, their employee number, and the password you have assigned to this employee. Company ID field can be empty because in Express Edition, there is only one company. After the employee clicks on Register, there is a confirmation message. Now we can go back to Midex Time Control. This registration will appear in our attendance panel for this employee. If you want to enhance your security and make sure that the employee is punching in and out only at their workplace, then you need to use one of the standalone time clocks. We offer 3 types of time clocks that are compatible with Midex Time Control: hand punch, fingerprint reader, and card reader. You can get more information about these clocks on our website, www.midextimeandattendance.com. Click on the Time Clocks menu button to obtain more information about each time clock and how they compare to each other. If you already own a device, you can still use Midex Time Control. Next, I'd like to show you how you can integrate your time clock with Midex Time Control Express. In order to do this, install one of our Attendance Manager programs. If you have a hand punch, then you need to install Hand Punch Attendance Manager. And if you have a fingerprint reader or a card reader, then you need to install Time Clock Attendance Manager under the Tools menu. Click on the appropriate icon and save the file to your computer. Alternatively, you can find these programs on our website, www.midextimeandattendance.com. After you've downloaded the setup file, install the program and you'll see the program file icon on your desktop. Now, we're ready to start the program. After the program loads, the first step is to input the IP address of your device. Once you do this, click on the Test button to make sure that the connection can be established. If the connection is successful, click on Load from Device to pull all attendance logs from your device. Please note that after you have downloaded logs from your device, they are automatically deleted from the device's memory, so make sure you are not running any other time and attendance software that connects to the same device to download the same logs. After you have downloaded all the logs, they are shown in this table. Now we need to upload these logs to your Midex Time Control account. Click on the Upload to Midex Time Control button, enter your organization login, your user login, and the password. Press the Login button and your logs will be automatically uploaded. After the upload completes, you can go back to your Midex Time Control account. Now, if I click on one of my employees, you can see all the registrations that were just uploaded. Finally, if you do not have a time clock that is compatible with our Attendance Manager software, there is another way to import data. You can save your attendance logs to a CSV file and import it into the program manually. Under the Tools menu, click the Import button. Select your file and all the logs will be imported into Midex Time Control. We can see that these logs have been imported into the program. Now that we have all our employees' registrations in Midex Time Control, let's see how we can manage this data. There are a few missing registrations. By looking at this time, I can see that there is a missing punch-out registration. To add this registration, click on Add Registration. Select the date, the time this employee punched out, and click on the OK button. Now we can see that this registration has been added. We can also see that this registration is marked in red, which means that it has been added manually. If we look closer at another employee, we can see that there is also a missing registration. If we look closely, there is a registration pair with only 6 minutes apart. The second registration must have been a mistake and it should be deleted. Click on this registration and then click on the Delete Registration button. Now this registration disappears and 8:52 a.m. is paired with 5:12 p.m. The rest of the registrations have been automatically recalculated, forming correct pairs. You can also update any of your existing registrations. Select the registration, click on the Edit Registration button, adjust the time, and click OK. Of course, now this registration is in red, telling us that you have updated it manually. When you're ready to do your payroll, you will need to go through all employees and make sure that their registrations are complete. Once you have confirmed that all registrations are fine, you can print your time card report. Let's take a look at some of the reports included with Midex Time Control Express. Under the Reports menu, you'll see 3 reports: Employees, Time Card, and At Work. The Employee report will simply print a list of all your employees. The At Work report gives you a list of employees that are currently working. This report is generated by selecting all employees who have punched in today but did not punch out. You can also see what time these employees started work. The main report is the Time Card report. This report gives you a summary of how many hours each employee worked in a given period. First, we have to select the period that we want to generate the report for. Then, you have a choice to generate a detailed report or a summary report. And you can choose if you want the hours to be shown as hours in minutes or in a decimal format where minutes are converted to a fraction of an hour. Finally, you can choose which employees should be included in the report. Now, let's click on the Report button to generate a detailed report. After the report is generated, you can see detailed information about each employee. Here, you can see how many hours an employee worked each day and the total hours worked for the given period. If you were to select a summary option when running a time card report, then instead of seeing how many hours each employee worked per day, you will only see the total hours worked by each employee for the selected period. This report might be more appropriate if you want to send it to your accountant who does not need to see the daily details. Of course, all our reports can be printed or saved to any of the well-known file formats. In this video, I've demonstrated to you all the features of Midex Time Control. I hope that this will help you get started. In addition to our free Express edition, Midex Time Control comes in 3 other editions: Professional, Premier, and Enterprise. Each edition offers more features than the preceding one. Please visit our website, www.midextimeandattendance.com, and under the Time and Attendance Software menu, you can review each Midex Time Control edition. You can also see a comparison table by clicking on the Midex Time Control Editions menu. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us via web chat by filling out the contact form, by sending us an email, or by calling us. Thanks for watching this video tutorial.